Good evening and welcome to the Tuesday, December 20th, 2011 edition of the INFOWARS Nightly News. I'm Aaron Dykes. Now we have scheduled a powerful interview from the makers of A Noble Lie on the Oklahoma City bombing. That is James Lane, as well as a member of the former grand jury, Hoppy Heidelberg. We also have a ton of Ron Paul news, including the statements from Iowa's governor, not only trying to discredit Ron Paul, but also his own state's caucuses. But first, we have a news blitz from Alex Jones.
Well, it happened. We believed in the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. We believed in a man who'd always kept his word and had a perfect constitutional voting record, Ron Paul. It didn't matter that the establishment said he couldn't win. It didn't matter that they demonized him when they were forced to report on him. Ron Paul went from second to first place in Iowa. He went from third place to first place in New Hampshire. All over the country, Ron Paul is now coming up first or second. He is the front runner, and he's the only one who isn't a carbon taxing, open border promoting, Obama socialist healthcare loving globalist like Mitt Romney, Newt Gingrich, and others, or for that matter, Rick Perry. And so the Republican establishment is in panic mode. The system isn't going to get its new world order, its control freak nanny state, if somebody like Ron Paul wins the Republican nomination. They're already in panic mode over the fact that he's so prominent in the race when they desperately tried to censor him and black him out of the debates. People are talking about liberty. They're talking about freedom. They're talking about not giving tens of trillions in corporate bailouts to offshore globalist banks. Ron Paul is helping to bring sanity back to this country. He's saying torturing people is wrong, that the CIA being caught bringing drugs into this country is wrong. And he's being called a kook, a nut, a lunatic by an establishment that is out of bullets, that is losing all of its credibility, that people aren't listening to anymore. The system noted that they pulled out all the stops on the Republican and Democratic system from both sides to attack Rand Paul in Kentucky last year, and that only backfired on them because the system is so discredited. So now they're really resorting to a new level of dirty tricks. We demanded that Ron Paul run for office. We made the point that even if you lose, we win because you inject real issues. We demanded that Ron Paul run because resistance is victory. Even if he doesn't win the nomination or win the presidency, we're in the game. We're pointing out real issues that shows that we have a two-party dictatorship in this country. And now that Ron Paul's in there, we've got to defend him. We've got to stand with him. The traitorous sellout Republican Party that's in league with the Democratic traitors is desperate. They're in panic mode. And so they're taking an old trick but adding something new to it. They're saying if Iowans vote for Ron Paul, they're basically wasting their vote. But more than that, they are discrediting Iowa, and that if Ron Paul wins Iowa, that Ron Paul discredits the caucus system itself and how presidential nominees are picked. Now, Ron Paul's not doing that. Ron Paul's supporters, who are the voters in the caucus, they're not the people that are doing that. It's the governor attacking the electoral process. It's the governor bringing into question the election system. It's the governor assaulting the voters, but they spin it that it's Ron Paul. You know, if Ron Paul standing for election happens to win, he discredits Iowa, so don't waste your vote on him. It is just an incredibly dirty trick, but I believe will backfire if we get the word out and if you get this video and the articles we've written about it at INFOWARS.com out to everybody. I mean, look at the mind control. Look at how brazen and naked this is. The governor, Politico, and other operatives come out in droves with a talking point that if Ron Paul wins, forget it. Look at number 2, Mitt Romney. And that Ron Paul's discrediting the process when they're the ones trying to discredit the process and telling voters what they believe in and what they stand for isn't valuable. They've already told you how to think, saying you can't vote for Ron Paul, he won't win. Now they say if he wins, it's a loss for Iowa and that they'll be discredited and the Iowa caucus won't be the important kickoff of the election it's been for many decades. That is mind control. That's them saying, hey, you're trendy. You're into whatever we tell you. So do what you're told and shut up and vote for Mr. Carbon Taxes, Mr. Abortion, Mr. Open Borders, Mr. Author of Obamacare, Mitt Romney. Or if you don't like him, go for Mr. Same as Romney, Newt Gingrich. You can't have Ron Paul. The corrupt establishment that's taken this country over is freaking out and really showing their hand right now. And showing that they think if they tell you that our state will be embarrassed if you do this, that you're so weak-minded that you'll go along with that. I want everybody to get this special news report from INFOWARS Nightly News that I'm breaking down right now and get it out to everybody you know because they are scared of him. I mean, here's one of the headlines out of Politico. Will Ron Paul kill the caucuses? And it goes on to say that he's a threat to the state's cherished kickoff status. And if he wins, they're discredited. They think you're a bunch of mindless people who just do whatever you think is popular. It's all of this peer pressure-driven, advertisement-based bull that has taken us from the most wealthy and most respected country in the world to one of the most indebted and universally reviled and hated because we've allowed criminals to take over our system, because we sit there and let the men in the nice suits tell us how to vote. It is incredible. So get these articles and this video out to everyone you know and point out the arrogance and hubris of the Republican Party that is so scared of Ron Paul. As I told Politico and other publications when Rand Paul was running, I said, don't you get it? The more you demonize him, the more dirt you try to dig up, the more crap you make up, the higher his poll numbers go. And they're doing the same thing with Ron Paul. Now, in closing, the anonymous group says they're going to hack things because they're mad at Ron Paul. That's the feds. But the feds are going to come in and try to oversee it now. So, of course, they can then claim that the hack threw confusion into the vote. So they say Ron Paul won, but is it true? They're doing anything they can to engage in mind control and manipulation. But if you're aware of it, and if you understand the type of staged events they pull off, their power over all of us is broken. Break the trance. Now, continuing with tonight's news report, I want to get into the nanny state because just today I saw this stack of articles in front of me. Every day I see these type of reports and I've almost become numb to it. We cannot let ourselves become numb to it. Remember when they said that they were going to have trash inspectors, that it wasn't going to be associated with fines a few years ago, even though they'd done that in Europe? And even though the company setting it up said that that was part of the model. Look at this headline out of My Fox. Public Works defends fine for not recycling cat litter, $2,000 fine. And what are they doing? They're digging through your trash. Continuing, here is another one. This is out of Queens. Trash can tickets in Queens. They say a little known law that you have to put your trash cans out at an exact time. Well, residents found that if they put their trash can out 30 minutes early before it's supposed to be out, you put it out when the man says so, they're given a $100 fine. But if you do it a second time, well, it goes up to $1,000. So you'll put your trash can out when your government master says so. Here's another one. Regulators seek ban of cell phone use in cars, even hands-free. Wall Street Journal. Hands-free is completely safe. But they're saying they're going to track with government systems your cell phone use. The police are going to have scanners. And so if they find if your cell phone's in use in the car, why, then you're going to get a big fine. It's all about revenue generation. But remember, as they raise more and more taxes and more revenue, notice everything's falling apart, less and less services, because we're going into austerity. Under the globalist model, they want to destroy us economically. It's in the IMF and World Bank documents that came out in the BBC in 2002. They want to destroy the economy, and they're shutting it down. And no amount of new taxes will ever pay off all these fake debts. It's designed to shut down the economy. It's a monopoly implosion program, just like we see happening in Europe right now. Now, finally, I have this article that a listener mailed us, and you can look at it online and pull it up as well from the Boston newspapers. Lynn woman charged over feeding ducks at park. AP reports an 80-year-old Lynn woman was criminally charged Wednesday because she refuses to stop feeding flocks of ducks and geese that officials, not servants, but officials, say are littering a pond and park with waste. And again, they've always got good reasons for this. Hey, when a cop pulled me over and wanted to check my window tint, I looked at him and I said, you know, MF Global has stolen billions of people's private accounts and won't get in trouble. I said, the government puts sodium fluoride in the water they admit gives you a 7-fold increase in cancer. I said, the government's getting rid of laws so they can put military on the streets. There's all these huge crimes, but all you're allowed to do is run around and raise revenue. And that's what's disgusting about this. This whole system, this whole nanny state is about making us feel like we're criminals. It's about teaching us to line up and be groped by the TSA in airports and now on highways and watch our children be groped. It's about the general public who's not criminal learning how to be a perp, learning how to be treated like a criminal, learning that we've got something to prove to the state and all of us are suspects until proven slaves, not guilty until proven innocent. We've gone beyond guilty until proven innocent. We are slaves here to be taught that we're guilty. We're being taught and conditioned that we're scum and trash and are always guilty and that only government can be trusted. Only government is our loving mommy and daddy. The globalists, the social engineers, the control freaks, in their own admissions, want to implode society to make us all dependent on them so they can socially engineer us in their image. They must be met with truth. They must be met with courage. They must be faced down because they know that we're waking up. And so they're accelerating their program. And incredible tyranny is now upon us. Last night, we broke the report that not only did Halliburton subsidiary KBR get the master contract to now prepare the subcontractors to man the camps. They've built them. Now they're getting ready to man them. But now we've gotten the master federal bid when they put it out to companies and have direct links to it on homelandsecurity.gov website. And still, the mainstream media won't touch this. And they're not going to come grab you and take you to a camp and blow your head off day one. No. They're going to sell the camps. We know this from the Model States Health Emergency Powers Act, the Emergency Centers Establishment Act, that it's going to be for the collapse for poor people. And then there'll be security problems, and there'll be brigs where the bad people go. That's in all these documents, and they've built them all over the country. People say, why would they want to wreck the economy? Don't they want to make money? The elites issue the money. They control unlimited money through Ponzi schemes, but they've got to have tyranny in place to make sure you accept their fraud. That's like asking, why did Kim Jong-il of North Korea, not care about millions of his people starving every few years? It was a form of domination. The sickos that run that country enjoy what they're doing.
The Oklahoma City bombing, there's James Lane, as well as a member of the former grand jury, Hoppy Heidelberg. We also have a ton of Ron Paul news, including the statements from Iowa's governor, not only trying to discredit Ron Paul, but also his own state's caucuses. But first, we have a news blitz from Alex Jones.
Well, it happened. We believed in the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. We believed in a man who'd always kept his word and had a perfect constitutional voting record, Ron Paul. It didn't matter that the establishment said he couldn't win. It didn't matter that they...
Good evening and welcome to the Tuesday, December 20th, 2011 edition of the INFOWARS Nightly News. I'm Aaron Dykes. Now we have scheduled a powerful interview from the makers of A Noble Lie on the...
Demonized him when they were forced to report on him. Ron Paul went from second to first place in Iowa. He went from third place to first place in New Hampshire. All over the country, Ron Paul is now coming up first or second. He is the front runner.